guys, it's Gretchen and welcome back to my channel. So first of all, let me address the elephant in the room. It's really not an elephant in the room, but whatever. I do have a new setup, I guess. Past weekend, I felt the need to rearrange my home office, and so this computer used to be that direction on a wall, and now it has come this direction against a window. So I don't know if I'm gonna end up liking that change, but for now, I kind of like it. What do you guys think? You like the window? Not like the window? Whatever. But anyway, today's video, I recently posted a picture, so I just said that I rearranged my office a little bit. And one of those rearrangements was that I took my bookcases out of my home office. Over in that corner, I used to have a bunch of IKEA bookshelves with a ton of books on them, and I decided to take them out of my home office out into my living room area. And so then I took a picture and put it on Instagram. Well, I had quite a few requests for a bookshelf tour. So for today's video, I thought I would give you all that bookshelf tour. As some of you may have gathered, I do have a degree in library and information science with like a focus in young adult literature. So I thought I would give you all a tour of my bookshelves. If you are not a book person, that's fine. You still might be able to enjoy it. Sometimes just looking at a book is soothing. Makes one feel better. I feel more comfortable if I have a book with me, whether I read that book or not. Usually I don't get a chance to read that book, but having a book with me brings a great deal of comfort. So I thought I would take you all on a tour. So let's go do that. Alright, so I posted a picture of my bookshelves on Instagram the other day because I had moved them out of my office and brought them out into my living room area, and I had quite a few people asking for me to do kind of like a bookshelf tour, so I thought I would go ahead and do that. These bookshelves came from IKEA. I believe they are part of the Billy collection. We're pretty inexpensive. I just have the two big ones and the one skinny one, and it holds pretty much all of my books. There are some books that don't fit on there, so maybe I'll get another bookcase in the future, but let's go ahead and get started. So the first bookcase I'm gonna look at is this one on the left. You'll see that over here. It's one of the bigger ones, and it's pretty chock full of books. This is my young adult / middle grade bookcase. I have most of my young adult novels on this one, as well as a few middle grade ones. My library and information science degree, I have like a focus in teen literature, so I read a lot of teen literature. So it gets an entire bookcase dedicated to itself. So let's look at each individual shelf. For the first shelf, I have two authors. One is actually just one series, and then the other one is the entire like author, if that makes sense. But this is my Pretty Little Liars collection. Right here I have all of the books. I have only actually read 2 of these books, but I've watched the show, if that's any consolation. I do eventually plan to read all of them, but being a fan of the show, I just had to get the whole collection. If anyone's ever read these books, let me know how they are compared to the show. Over here, I have books by Ellen Hopkins. She writes kind of in verse. It's a really cool writing style. It's very quick reads, but they are heavy hitters. A lot of these are, they're pretty intense. My favorites are probably Crank and Identical, but the other ones are really good as well. Next shelf, we have some series, as you can see. Over here you'll see we have some Stephanie Perkins books. We have some Ali Condie books. These books right here are by far some of my favorites. One is on my bedside table, and the other one I have on Kindle. I don't actually have a print copy of it, but these are the Arcana Chronicles, and they are absolutely amazing. Then we have these by Victoria Schwab. We've got some Gail Forman, some Anna Jarzab. We've got this series. This series is really good, as well as this one. And then we've got this, and the main reason why I picked these up is because the main character's name is Gretchen in this one, even though she's like Hitler's niece. So that sucks, but the main character's name is Gretchen. Then we have a few just standalones right here. Actually, that's not a standalone, but that came in a subscription box that I used to get, as did several of these. This actually is not young adult. This should probably be over in the like just regular fiction bookshelves, but it found its home here somehow. Moving on down, we've got a few more series. We have the Splintered series. We have Madman's Daughter. I actually got this one signed by the author. We've got some Lois Lowry books right here. Obviously everyone knows The Giver, but not very many people know that The Giver is a series. It's the Chaos Walk-In series by Patrick Ness. We have the Survival stories. These are some really cutesy stories. More Gail Forman. These should probably go up with Gail Forman on that shelf, but they're not there. These are really fun. These are like, they're edited by Stephanie Perkins, who did these books, but it's a whole bunch of different authors. Like, you'll see the names on the sides right there. This one is the second book in a series, but this one is signed. For some reason she didn't have the first book at her signing, but she had the second one, so I got that and it's signed. And this is one that I just read about on Amazon and it sounded interesting. Moving on down, we've got a few more. This is by Kiera Cass. If you have never read the Selection series and you like young adult, you should go ahead and do that. We got some John Green here. We have some other, a lot of these are like the first book in series, and because I haven't gotten a chance to actually read those books yet, I haven't gotten the rest of them. These are really good if you were a fan of the Hunger Games, because they're pretty similar. These are interesting. They're like retellings of fairy tales. The Uninvited and Unleashed is really good. Rainbow Rowell, awesome author. We've got Throne of Glass. This one right here is pretty interesting. I actually had this author. She was an ASL professor of mine 2 years ago. It was pretty cool. 13 Reasons Why. Everyone's heard about that show being pretty controversial. And then some just standalones. Next shelf, we've got a lot of first books in series there. Again, just because I haven't gotten around to getting the rest of the series, I just have their first books right there. We have some Marie Lu, The Sin Eater's Daughter, and The Sleeping Prince. I believe there's a third one that I haven't gotten yet. Pretty cool. There's another Victoria Schwab one, also a good book. Some standalones, and then we have the Ugly series over here, which is really good. And then finally on the bottom shelf of this bookcase, we've got, this is where I have put a lot of the middle grade books, as well as other books that I've either read and don't plan to read again, or ones that don't interest me as much. The only one here that really interests me is A Court of Thorns and Roses, Caraval, To All the Boys I've Loved Before, I believe is this one right there. I believe is becoming a movie. Cold Calls right there. I actually won in a contest, which was pretty cool. Dorothy Must Die is also a really good one. So these are just the ones on my young adult middle grade shelf. All right, moving on to the middle shelf, which is smaller. I'm going to start at the bottom because I'm sitting on the ground at the moment. So these are all my Sarah Dessen books. If you have never heard of Sarah Dessen, she's basically the Nicholas Sparks of young adult authors, if that makes sense. These are all very romantic and focus around romance and relationships, as well as finding oneself, and they are all really good. Next, we have the Mortal Instruments series. This is a TV show on Freeform right now. I didn't really get into the show, but the books are amazing. And that's not the Mortal Instruments, but it's also by the same author. I believe it's called The Infernal Devices. This shelf is an interesting one. I am obsessed with the book Jane Eyre. It's probably my favorite book ever. And so whenever I see an interesting copy of it, I get it. So these are all my copies of Jane Eyre that I've collected to this point, and so they get their own little cubby. Next up, we have my murder mystery, or just mystery shelf. We've got some Agatha Christie's over here. And then these right here are all like cat/librarian murder mysteries, if that makes sense. But yeah, this is kind of like my murder mystery. Next up, we have Harry Potter. I absolutely am obsessed with these covers. Fun fact, I may have my library degree and it may be in middle grade and young adult literature, but I have only read up through the 4th Harry Potter book. Yeah, go ahead and yell at me now. I have never read 5, 6, or 7, and I have not read The Cursed Child. I've only read the first 4. I did not like this book, but I love the movie. Go figure. And finally up here are probably my favorite young adult series ever. We have the Divergent series right there, as well as 4. It really couldn't go on its own. And then the Hunger Games, which is by far my favorite trilogy ever. I'm just obsessed with it. So they get on the top shelf all to themselves. But yeah, that is my middle shelf. And now for the third bookcase. This is where all my nonfiction, my fiction, and my like professional books and classics are held. So yeah, so this top shelf is like a smorgasbord of stuff. We've got some just regular old fiction books over there, and we've got some nonfiction, then we've got some Shakespeare. Actually, we got a lot of Shakespeare, and then we've got how to write a novel and the art of writing a novel, because at some point I would like to write and publish a book. So the smorgasbord of stuff gets put up here. These two get put over there because they have inscriptions in them. The David Baldacci one, as well as Juliet, they both have inscriptions in them, and so they get on the top shelf as a special place. Next shelf, we have some more fiction books. We've got Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which is an amazing movie. I would imagine it's an amazing book, as well as like Room and The Time Traveler's Wife, and we're just gonna ignore that one. Keep going. Got Orange is the New Black. Love that TV show. These are the same author. These are the same author, and then these are just some standalones. This is an autobiography? Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's not just like a work of fiction or nonfiction. We've got some Stephen King books. We have The Night Circus, which I still never read, but a lot of people liked it. These right here are like my guilty pleasure for novel, like fiction work. This is all about 4 friends, and they all have some kind of doings with weddings. So like the first one is all about the photographer friend. The second one is all about, I believe, the caterer friend. Bed of Roses is all about the florist friend, and then Vision in White is all about the planner. Actually, no, I got that backwards. Vision in White is the photographer. Bed of Roses is florist. Savor the moment. Caterer, Happy Ever After is the planner. Whoops, for some reason I did 1 to 4. I don't know why I did that. Over here we have a Be Happy book that my mom gave me. I need that a lot of days. Over here we've got some more fiction books, like Danish Girl, that was a movie. Brooklyn, I think was a movie. Serena, a lot of these are movies, so. Next shelf we have The Chronicles of Narnia, this big ass thing. Fun fact, still never read any of those. Then we've got some non-fiction kind of like biographies over here. We've got some pretty popular ones like The Girl on the Train and All the Light We Cannot See. Got some Margaret Atwood, as well as Gillian Flynn, so like Dark Places, Gone Girl, Sharp Objects. And then we have one True Blood book, which if you've never seen that show before, it's amazing. I have an Outlander book, just one. And then I have all of the Game of Thrones, even though that's not what it's called. George R.R. Martin, you gotta come out with the rest of them, bro. Next shelf are all my classics. So we've got Jane Austen books. We've got, you know, Dracula, The Picture of Dorian Gray, The Art of War. Ooh, how much fun. Some books that I read in like high school. Fahrenheit 451, The Outsiders, Animal Farm, Grapes of Wrath, The Bell Jar, some Kurt Vonnegut, The Hobbit, Watership Down, Separate Peace. Moving on, like Pride and Prejudice. I'm not quite sure why that's not over there with the rest of the Jane Austen books, but whatever. Catcher in the Rye, absolutely hate that book with a burning passion, but not nearly as much as Lord of the Flies, and you'll notice I don't have that book anywhere. Tenant of Wildfell Hall, some Anna Karenina, some Wicked, and then these lovely classics. So yes, this whole shelf is dedicated to the classics. This whole shelf are like the Barnes and Noble's like fancy editions. So you've got the complete Sherlock Holmes, the complete works of Shakespeare, the Bronte sisters, the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Snow Queen, which is what Frozen is based off of, the Divine Comedy by Dante, which I absolutely adore. Now, there is a copy of Jane Eyre right there. It is not on the shelf with the other Jane Eyre books, just because I wanted to remain with these types of books. So it's over on this shelf, even though all my other Jane Eyre books are on another shelf. And then we have books like Frankenstein, Alice in Wonderland, Grimm's Tales, Secret Garden, and Green Gables, Black Beauty, A Little Princess. And then that book over there does not belong, but it needed a home, so it's there. And finally, this last shelf is kind of a boring one, but it's important to me. And these are all of my books from when I was in school for library science. Now, there are some from when I was in higher ed. The rest of my higher ed ones
are actually in the other room. I just haven't been able to put them on the shelf yet. So these are all my professional books. So most of these are my library and information science ones, but you'll also notice that some of these are about higher education administration. So that's what this entire shelf is, are my professional books. Real fast, I thought I should note that these books I have recently pulled from my bookshelves, either because I've read them and don't plan to read them again, or I started them and I wasn't interested, or I got them at one point in time and they no longer interest me. So one of my favorites is Yaquito Gato Wants to Kick Your Ass. Really awesome book. I absolutely loved it, but I don't plan to read it again, so it's going in my pile. Over here we have some other books that I read for various reasons, and just again, they don't interest me, so they're in the discard pile. Most of these, let me remark on that, most of these are my young adult middle grade ones, and then these are like my just regular fiction, non-fiction ones. So I've either read these and I don't plan to do it again, or I got them at one point in time when I would have been interested in them, but now I'm not. So yeah. So these are my bookshelves, and this is their new home. As you can see, I have a Papasan from Pier 1 that my cat Spock is currently enjoying. And so it's finally nice to have these out in the open for people to see, because I love them dearly. So that's it for this bookshelf tour. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. For those of you who asked, hopefully it delivered. I don't know. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a big ol' thumbs up going down there. Hit that subscribe button wherever it may be, because I would really, really appreciate it. And until next time, bye guys. Also, I really want feedback on this new layout. I would say be honest and tell me if I need to move it back, but I'm not gonna move it back because it took a lot of effort to move it here. It won't get moved. So hopefully y'all like it. And hopefully my neighbors aren't wondering why I've got all these bright lights.